So ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you already see the topic of my little talk, but yeah, you don't see it? Yes, you see it. So in general, I would like to tell you a couple of words about a necessity to reform the educational system. Right now, as many of you may know, our generation, the young people, are today mainly considered as a kind of problem to be resolved because of the youth unemployment. And so as a result of that, we are kind of considered as a group of people that is just graduating, that just graduated on one hand, and on the other hand, is not ready to be employed because of the mismatch between the educational system and the labor market. However, I would like to say that young people are in fact the greatest potential for European Union and for Europe in general, simply because it is our generation is the one that is the best educated in the history of humankind. When you take a look at all the statistics, they say that in fact many of us are just finishing or finished tertiary education, and this is the greatest proportion of population ever. And therefore, it is quite clear to say that in fact we are a great potential. But why is it so that so many of us are unemployed? Well, it's because our educational system didn't really prepare, or is very archaic in a sense, because it has been created many years ago and it doesn't really correspond to the requirements of the market and requirements of the society as it is today. And why is it archaic? Well, first of all, it's important to say that the educational system as we know it today, so the one that is kind of focusing on very narrow kind of spectrum of topics, has been created in the 19th century. And it was created in order to provide the society with the labor force for the industrializing world. However, the time has changed, and now we are still kind of using the same standards and the same educational system for the different world that we are currently living. And so when you take a look at all this, you know that, well, we are all trained in math, in geography, in history. However, it doesn't really correspond with the diversity of characters, personalities, skills. And so many of graduates that have just graduated and finished their university are not really knowing themselves. And so, as a result of that, we have a kind of, this educational system does not really recognize the beauty of the humankind. And one of the wonderful things that we know about us is that we very much differ from one another. We have very different skills, we have different capabilities, we have different personalities, we have different characters. And this is very visible in children. I don't know if some of you have children, or some of you come from big families. If so, you may actually see, if you have, I don't know, 5 brothers and sisters, you can say that, you can tell me here, come to the stage and tell me here that each of your brothers and sisters is very different from one another. And this is because we have very different characters, we have very different ways, mentalities, we are very creative. And this educational system is not really corresponding to the creativeness of people. It's just focusing on a very narrow subjects, or very narrow spectrum of subjects, that does not really correspond neither to our skills, personalities, and abilities, nor to the labor market that we are currently let's say, forced to operate in. And therefore, due to this fact, we started YouthProaktiv as a kind of a response to this need. One of the greatest problems with educational system is that most of people who just graduated from university, they don't really know themselves. I can say myself that after university, I was having a lot of knowledge about many issues, but I didn't really know what I want to do in life. I didn't really know what kind of personality I have. I didn't really know what kind of skills I have, what are my strengths and weaknesses. And this is a thing that is occurring in most of the people, or most of the young people that I know. And I can tell you that I've been working in the youth sector for the last 10 years. So I had a chance to meet many people from many countries, and many of them are telling me that actually I don't know what I'm going to do. And this is because educational system gives us knowledge, but does not invite us to look inside us, to look inside ourselves and discover our talents, strengths, our weaknesses. And as a result of that, we cannot really make responsible decisions about our lives. Proactivity is not only about like having an idea and going for an idea. No, it's a decision. A decision which says that I'm going to take responsibility of my life and that I'm going to lead my life in the way I want. This is what proactivity is. And so, as a result of that, this is another problem. But another problem that we have in the educational system is the lack of soft skills. Many young people, especially in the European system, educational system, are not really prepared to be employed. And this is because, as I said, our universities, higher education, are not really able to, or not yet investing in soft skills. So most of us don't really know how to deal with a project, or how to work in groups, or how to manage our time. All these kind of things, or we don't even know how to deal with means, with money. We don't have financial literacy. All these kind of things we learn through internships or our first employment. And all this, well, could be provided at a much lower level, maybe in high school, or maybe even in kindergarten. Maybe we could have this kind of classes for children. I know that there's many ideas about it, but certainly there is a lot of things to be done. And finally, what is the solution to all of this? So we have a system that is focused on a very narrow number of subjects, that does not really invite people to look inside themselves, to discover what are their talents, and that does not provide us with soft skills and skills to be employed. The response to it is quite simple. It's to believe in people, in the great potential of people, and invest in them, empower them. This is the key point. And how we can do that? Well, there are several ways. First of all, we need to consider educational system as a platform for discovering yourself and your talents, or a person and her talents. Second of all, we definitely, I think this is a quite strong statement, but I think that we should consider to introduce some coaching classes at schools. And in most of the European systems, we don't really have them. And and even if we do, they are not yet they are in a developing stage. It is necessary, and I think even from a very young age, to allow children to be exposed to coaching, to help them to understand their personality, the way they behave, the way they react to stress, the way they work in groups. All these kind of things are necessary for us to really know ourselves. And so these coaching classes that should be started as early as possible, first as kind of for children, let's say, as kind of an activity. It doesn't have to be like sitting in class. Can be more about fun. But then it should grow as together with age. Second, of course, soft skills. I know that in many schools and universities there is much bigger focus on that, and that there is much more focus on working in groups. But I can tell you from my own experience, when in my country, I'm coming from Poland, when a teacher is saying that we are working in groups, it's very often the case that one person does the thing and the other are just signing. And this is not really about working in groups. When I was a student, I actually underestimated the value of it. But now when I work in a team, and I have to deliver a project, I can tell you very clearly that it's very important to know with what kind of people I work, with what personalities I work, how to deal with projects, how to be clear so people know and kind of coming together in order for the project to happen. Apart from that, of course, all kinds of soft skills that are necessary for your work, like project management. I think that every graduate from university should know what the project is actually consisting of and how to deal with a project. It's not only about writing a thesis. Of course, it's very important. Knowledge is important. But it is also very important to have skills. So once we are kind of exposed to the labor market and we are exposed to working in an office, we are able to do that. And finally, as Paloma said, we are working on entrepreneurship. Proactivity, we understand proactivity and education in a kind of holistic way. We believe that a person is multidimensional and that the person should be should be having a chance to develop in every sphere of life. And that's why we focus on proactivity first. But apart from that, we also promote entrepreneurship because we believe that being an entrepreneur in your community is a certain service. It's a service because you, as a person who is proactive, who decided to stand up and build something on your own, are the one who is actually giving jobs to others. And that's why we have so much talking about social entrepreneurship, about solutions that are kind of employable to raise society out of poverty. And this is a key point, particularly in Europe, to promote entrepreneurship from the youngest age possible. Because this is the way for us to actually end youth unemployment. When we go to school, we all say, okay, I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a diplomat. Yes. And nobody says, I want to be an entrepreneur. Or very few of us, at least, from my experience. So, of course, we have classes on the entrepreneurship. But at least in many countries, these classes are simply limited to some legal frameworks, how the entrepreneurship works. And they are also taught by teachers, not by entrepreneurs. So as a result of that, you have a blind who is actually leading a blind. And you do not have a practitioner who actually can show how this can be done. All this, of course, comes with a certain idea of proactive world. So YouthProaktiv as an organization is developing educational programs, is organizing trainings for young people, is organizing these conferences in order to build a society, a culture of proactivity, in which people make a decision to take responsibility over themselves and communities. And as a result of that, if we manage to build this generation of young people who are committed to this kind of idea, together with appropriate legal framework that is friendly for start-uppers, for entrepreneurs, we can actually bring Europe and bring Europe back from the crisis and end youth unemployment. I hope that this conference, because there's many of you come from different networks, will be a starting point for a debate that should take place in Europe. And it's good, and one of the good things about the economic crisis is that this crisis can show what is not working. And this talk was supposed to kind of portray a picture what is not working. And therefore I am so open and so happy to hear your voices in this debate. And I hope this conference will be an opportunity for that. Thank you.